It's incredible. We will continue tonight's celebrations with the presentation of the 2024 Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters. Each year, the medal's given to a writer who has enriched our shared literary and cultural heritage over the course of their career. Previous recipients include Toni Morrison, Isabel Allende, Art Spiegelman, and most recently, National Humanities Medalist, Pulitzer Prize winner, and National Book Award finalist Rita Dove. Tonight's honoree has offered us some of the most significant literature of the 21st century, ranging from fiction to poetry to investigative journalism to science writing. Here to present the medal this evening is Sam Stoloff. Sam Stoloff is the president and principal of the Frances Goldin Literary Agency, founded by Frances Goldin in 1977. Sam joined the agency in 1997 and is a member of the board of directors of the Association of American Literary Agents. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Sam Stoloff.
They didn't tell me when I first became a literary agent that this was part of the job description, or I might have chosen a different line of work. We agents are more used to hiding comfortably in the acknowledgement sections of our authors' books, rather than standing up on stage, introducing them. I owe my place here on this stage to Barbara Kingsolver, of course, but also to Frances Goldin, the founder of the agency I now head, who some of you, of course, knew. When Barbara was first looking for a literary agent in the 1980s, back when people still looked for agents in literary reference books, one listing jumped out at her. It read, in part, "No racist, sexist, ageist, homophobic, or pornographic material considered." And Barbara said, "Bingo. That's the agent for me." Frances was not only a fierce advocate for Barbara's work, but something of a Jewish mother to both Barbara and me, and that's the thread that connects us. If she could have been here, she would have been quelling. Barbara Kingsolver's contributions to American letters since then have been amazingly varied, far more than I could do justice to. But what I would say above all is that Barbara has always been ahead of her time, showing us the way. She was reviving the social novel at a time when ironic detachment and introspection were still very much the literary fashion, starting with her first novel, The Bean Trees, which among other things portrayed the sanctuary movement, protecting Central American political refugees, and later in the majestic The Poisonwood Bible, which skewered the arrogance of American imperial exceptionalism. She was writing fiction about climate change before cli-fi was a thing, in novels like Flight Behavior, which sounded an early alarm about how environmental disasters would devastate human communities in ways we see so clearly now. Because she trained as a biologist, her writing has always been clear-eyed about the ways humans are embedded in ecosystems, rather than standing apart from them. She was advocating for local and seasonal eating when locavorism was still a new idea. In the memoir she wrote with her family, Animal Vegetable Miracle, about the year they spent eating only what could be grown near their home. She's a writer-farmer in the tradition of her fellow Kentuckian, Wendell Berry. She eats from her garden, as those of you who follow her on Instagram have seen, and she knits with wool from the sheep that she raises. She was writing about the dispossession of rural working people long before we all became preoccupied with the regional schisms in our country, starting with her very first book, Holding the Line, about a copper mine strike in Arizona. And all of these themes are gathered in her most recent novel, the stunning Demon Copperhead. Although inspired by Charles Dickens, the original novelist of social protest, the book has as much kinship with Mark Twain. In Demon's astonishingly original voice, Barbara has given us the Huck Finn of our times. She has done all this with a warmth and humor, an uncanny ear for Appalachian speech, a wealth of vivid metaphor, and an aphoristic wit that are her trademarks. I am glad that the National Book Foundation calls this a prize for distinguished contribution rather than lifetime achievement, although they also do call it that, if you look closely at the website. Artists are naturally superstitious about having their work prematurely summed up, but Barbara is at the height of her powers, and so we have so much more to look forward to. And with that, it is my honor to present, on behalf of the National Book Foundation, the Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters to my dear friend, the great Barbara Kingsolver.
Thanks, Sam. Sorry I made you do that, but you knocked it out of the park. You all look so beautiful for people who usually go to work in sweatpants, right? Or is that just me? This is an honor I never imagined and will never forget. And I am so grateful to all the people that Paul had the gracious presence of mind to thank. I thank them too. The implication of an award like this, as Sam implied, is that you've been around for a lifetime. And I have. I've written through crises that seemed unsurvivable to me, through administrations that rose and fell. I've seen total eclipses of the sun. So I know that when everything goes dark, the sun's still up there. When I was new to this profession, the credited goal of our art was to be perfect and contained and morally disengaged. Art that made people uncomfortable was likely to get scolded by critics. I know this from experience. But it's all I knew how to do. I come from people who aren't in this room, who've never been in a room like this, or in this city, or maybe not in any city, maybe not even very far from where they were born. I write with their hearts in my throat, the kinds of stories that I grew up hungry for, underpinned with hard questions about class and power, and how we got to this place where so many people are left outside hungry. And readers got it. They lived in that world too, and booksellers, and librarians, and my wonderful publisher, HarperCollins, has always had my back. But there were headwinds. The headwinds were always there. The people that are there to let you know you're not going to get in the club if you talk that much about ordinary folk. I have lived long enough to see that change. Maybe those critics retired. Or maybe so many writers pulled up their chairs to the table, so many of you, that we had to get a new table. The rowdy one, where we ask the big, scary, uncomfortable questions and stake our hearts on the people and the places that really need us. Artists get called a lot of dreamy things. We're lighthouses, we're visionaries, we are soothers of the savage breast. Maybe. But I think we're at our best when we're disruptors. When we rattle self-absorption and the lazy belief that my best interests are everybody's best interests. We get to crack people open, what Doris Lessing called unselfing. We use our best beautiful tricks to lure people into letting go of themselves for a little while so they can look into the soul of another human. Because that empathy, my friends, is our salvation. As James Baldwin told us, we are still each other's only hope. The fact of me standing here with you, with this old medal around my neck, feels like a miracle to a country girl from Kentucky in the disguise of a sparkly dress. And I'm so happy, not so much for me, but for all of us and the seismic shift in the rules of our art and who gets to play. I'm proud of the respect we have finally learned to give in this country to art that engages with the real ruckus of the world. The thrill of that engagement gets me up in the morning and will keep getting me up for all the tomorrows I have, which I'm banking on a good many of them, even on the days when I've been smacked down for the truths I believe in and the people and the places I love. And I'll confess, I'm feeling smacked down at the moment, and maybe you are too. Here's what I know. Truth and love have been struck down so many times in history before now. Truth because it's often inconvenient, and love because it's vulnerable. But truth is like gravity and the sun behind the eclipse. It doesn't matter what rules people make up. It's still there. And love stays alive if you tend it. Our job is to remember what there is to love, the people and places that need us to bring them into the room, into the heart of the unacquainted stranger. Our job is to invent a better ending than the sorry one we were given. Nobody can take care of everything at once, but it's still worth taking care of something because there are so many of us to do it. We're not erased. We're still here, like gravity, like the sun behind the eclipse. Thank you.
Welcome David Steinberger, Chair of the National Book Foundation's Board of Directors.